This is a key I never thought we were going to time. I genuinely thought 21 Algethar Academy was probably a week or two away for us timing and even getting close to. Our best Algethar 20 run before this was like only 30 seconds under the timer. So trying to even envision ourselves being so much faster and a level higher was just not in my mind. But luckily on stream today, we were able to actually snag this 21, which put it at US 15th and I think like world 200th. So really, really happy with this run. This warrior, total pug, was not in comms. Charend and Carrot. Carrot is someone that I play with pretty regularly. Charend is someone who I've played with occasionally over the last couple seasons, and whenever we do need a rogue and he's available, we tend to pick him up. Pretty solid. And then of course we have Chicken Soup sporting the Restoration Shaman. Now I'm gonna have my talent build linked down below, so feel free to check it out. I'm not gonna go over anything here. It's a pretty standard Master of Harmony build. Now at the time of recording this video, we're starting to see like a surge in Guardian Druid dominance and a kind of a fall off of Brewmaster. And so while I do think that Brewmaster is one of the more capable tanks at doing this key, I do think that Guardian Druid actually lends itself a little bit better to this dungeon. The only issue with playing that is you don't play dwarf. So kind of on that note, obviously as you could tell, we're not playing Algethar, and I'm not a dwarf. I'm actually a night elf, so I don't have access to bleed removal, which means that our first pull is actually going to be really, really, really scary. And the reason it's scary is because it's just going to live longer because I'm going to be spending half my time just kiting, which is not fun, but it's what you got to do to live. So I'm going to just jump into the run here. All the information that's available for this run should be down below, including routes, talent build, etc. And the key gets slotted now, maybe? Super spooky first pull. Now, we're not going to do anything super interesting in this route. It's going to be a very kind of typical hold W, very similar route that you might see in a +12 or a +15. We're just going to be doing it as efficiently and optimizing damage as much as possible to obviously time the key. So I'm going to be grabbing versatility buff here. Versatility tends to be my preferred choice here now that I'm sitting at like 36% base crits on after like obviously armored. And so there's no reason for me to try to like push that up any higher. Anyways, dropping an Ox Edge to the left, turning around, grabbing this Lasher. We are then going to be attempting to mark this guy with Skull. The Vile Lasher with Skull is going to be the prio target here. This is what everyone in our group is going to be hitting, and the idea is that we want to kill this before the third set of bleeds. So here's the first set coming out now. I have 2 stacks. Here comes the third stack. I'm going to walk into the Skitterflies. I'm using my Dread Scale to get thread on there, and now at 6 seconds left on the debuff, I'm rolling away for 4 seconds. Once it hits 2, I can re-engage and then make sure I'm planted for my group so we can obviously do a lot of damage. Our Feral Druid is doing close to 1.2. Our Arms Warrior and Outlaw Rogue are both doing around 800 KDPS. This is really, really good. And then I have the third set of bleeds. I'm rolling away. I'm kiting a little bit. And then once it's at 2 seconds, I'm re-engaging and that Lasher goes down. Now, what that means is that I don't have to kite anymore. Once there's only 2 Lashers left, these Vile Bites will be synced close enough where they get staggered. So it goes 1 stack and a 2 stack, but the 2 stack falls off before it recasts the first Vile Bite. So the Vile Bite's coming out right now. It does mean you're always going to pretty much have a bleed during this back half of the pull, but honestly, my healer's just going to start kind of healing me towards this back half. I think we might have already dropped a link here, but basically he's just going to be healing Surge, rip-tiding me to make sure that I'm nice and healthy. Now, once the Skitterflies die, I'm actually going to be heading over to grab the next set of Skitterflies here. Gives me a couple more targets for Vital Flame healing, and then it gets us ready for the boss fight. So the contingency here is making sure that the Vile Lashers die and that spawns the boss. And now we can just fight these Skitterflies while the boss RP is going. This gives us time to kind of regen mana, gather resources if any of the DPS need anything, and then getting ready to blast the boss. So I didn't really talk about it, but in that last pull, basically I started with my Ox, I chained in a Fortifying Brew, and then after that it was kind of just like on my healer to heal me. Anyways, we engage the Overgrown Ancient and we are off to the races. And so this boss can be scary if you're doing this kind of strategy, because this first Bark Breaker coming out right now makes me take more physical damage, and these Lashers, or these Skitterflies, I should say, are enraged. They're doing significantly more damage. So when that happens, you want to commit something like a Leg Sweep. You want to make sure you're soothing. Now, luckily, this group lends itself really well to that toolkit. We have Shiv, we have Soothe, and we have pressure points from the monk. So we have access to many soothes in this group, so we're not really too worried about it. Anyways, Branch comes out and we are now going to start blasting into it. Luckily, at this point in the encounter, we actually had a ton of damage going out onto this Vile, or this Ancient Branch, and so it gets deleted pretty quickly. Generally speaking, what I'll do is I hold Touch of Death for an ad that we're not going to kill quickly. And so, knowing that our first set's going to die, I end up committing Touch of Death earlier, right before we engage the boss. And now it's going to be available again for the next ad. So, when it's low, I can kill it so we don't get in an awkward position where we have to run from the Germinates while trying to stay inside of that abundant circle. Anyways, this part of the fight's a little scary. So the strategy or the strat that like we use is when the ads spawn, I face tank them. And then once the bark break is being casted, I am committing a global to dispelling myself while our shaman, while chicken, he drops a totem, a static charge totem to make sure that all the mobs are stunned. So we're doing that basically together. I'm going to point it out on the next, I guess, intermission. I don't know what to call it when he does burst forth. Anyways, this ad looks pretty healthy, but committing Touch of Death here is actually going to allow us to stay inside of the circle, and Germinate doesn't come out for like 2 seconds. So the bleed gets removed, and then we're going to kind of just kite around. So here's that strategy again. I'm going to drop Ring of Peace. That's going to allow my DPS to stand inside of this without getting meleeed. I'm going to be taking a lot of this to the face, a lot of this damage. I'm going up to 18 stacks, 21 stacks, 25 stacks. Cap Totem gets dropped. I dispel myself, and that's kind of the overlap that happens where it can be very explosive for the tank. So my healer knows that I'm going to be taking damage. We've actually had this conversation really early in the season where I died, and he was like, well, what can we do there? Like, do you need to dispel yourself? Do you need to sweep? Do I need a cap? And we decided, and we landed on, you cap, I dispel, and then we should all be like super safe. Obviously other DPS can help out with like shockwave and stuff, but honestly, if anyone's going to try to do any kind of CC, you want your DPS to commit almost every global they can to damage to optimize that. So it's better to have the healer to stun than it is to have really any of our DPS stun. Anyways, Lost Abundant Circle comes out. I could have dragged him out. He healed for a whopping 300k or 600k, and then he dies. Like, I see a lot of players try to get the boss out of that Abundant Circle, but I just don't think it's worth the effort. Anyways, we had a crazy fast split. So the time stamps on my kind of like time card in the lower left-hand corner, that's comparing our fastest 20 run. So compared to our fastest 20, we're 30 seconds faster in this 21. And so when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, we are just like blasting. If we can even break even on Croth, I'm going to be happy. And we end up doing pretty okay. So anyways, Guardian Sentry is a kind of a unique mob because when you're playing with a full melee composition, your chances are you're going to have a lot of tornadoes in melee. Therefore, you have to kind of move this guy fairly aggressively, or you have to try to bait circles properly. If you bait it in the wrong spot, it's going to end up killing someone, which I think happens in a little bit. I know Carrot ends up dying in this pull, but I don't know what to what. I think on the next one, he like wild charges back in and dies to it. I don't remember, but basically you always kind of want to position him near one of these corners. And the reason why is because if you position yourself near a corner, you can get knocked into the corner. And if you use a defensive, you can actually like prevent that damage. So unfortunately, this tornado that's right underneath him, I believe Carrot gets knocked here. And then the tornado clips, he wild charges, I think, back and then gets clipped by the tornado that's underneath the boss. So just kind of a little spooky thing that happened there. Unfortunately, we end up committing the battle res for kind of no reason. I think Carrot would have actually been faster releasing here. And obviously we burnt a battle res, but it's at the end of the day, it's not going to matter too much. I commit Touch of Death and then we're moving on. So take him in the corner to get knocked back. If a DPS uses a defensive, chances are on a 21, at least with the right gear, you're probably going to live as long as you have a defensive for everyone. But if you can't, just line of sight. These eagles are kind of sleeper. These guys can definitely like pack a punch, and what I mean by that is like they stack up this bleed. It doesn't get applied often, but if you RNG or if you get bad RNG on dodges, it can end up stacking up to like 8 or 9 times, and that's when the bleed gets like super lethal. So do be a little cautious on these pulls. Luckily, I never went above like 5, so we're kind of just like vibing here. Next pack's going to come out. I saved an empty barrel for it, so it starts bouncing around. This does a little better job at getting threat than just like straight up keg smashing or like waiting for the birds to come down. And I'm going to be doing the same almost every single time. Whenever like we're ending one of these pulls, I'm using Celestial Infusion to proc an empty barrel so I can get like early threat on the mobs that are coming down. A really important thing for Master of Harmony is making sure you are always facing the mobs. You want to make sure your attacks and your damage from your attacks are going directly through the eagles. So that's kind of what I'm focused on doing here. I'm trying to, when you see me strafing left and right, I'm trying to basically try to keep the mobs stacked on top of each other or inside of one hitbox, so my damage is always cleaving. That's a pretty important thing for optimizing your damage when you're playing Master of Harmony. Shadow-pan doesn't obviously matter as much. Here we go. Celestial Infusion gives me the Keg Smash reset, gives me the empty barrel, so it bounces around, and that should do a pretty good job at getting threats. I'm going to try to taunt the Territorial Eagle, and yeah, we're just chilling. These packs are kind of like deceiving in terms of like should you commit cooldowns or not? You should definitely be committing cooldowns as often as possible to these mobs because they do need to die. The faster these dies, the faster the RP starts. The faster RP starts, the faster you can engage boss. So it's important not to like sit on CDs here really too much if you can help it. So as you can see, like our feral druid's sitting on, well, he's not sitting on it, but like his CD is not up for 40 seconds, and our warrior sent his CDs at the start of the poll, which is just good. It's good to just send your cooldowns on cooldown. When you're playing this Fizz comp, it's good. Other comps, it depends on like what class you're playing, but with Fizz comp, why I like it so much is because you hold W and do damage. If you hold W and do damage, you can time really high keys with full Fizz comp. Obviously, some of the routes might have to be a little different from what like the meta groups run, but you can just like literally just like hold W. It's so fun. So we're dunking all the orbs. We kind of have assigned spots for it. Warrior goes far so we can leap. Shaman goes mid and I go close. I could probably change it and go mid, but it doesn't really matter too much. And now we're pulling Croth. So this fight is definitely just a fucking healer check, man. If you can pull him by the 10-minute mark, you'll be looking good. You want him to die around the 14-minute mark, and then you're probably also feeling pretty good. Luckily, we're going to be doing a strategy where we're going to pull as little as possible towards the end of the dungeon. So the 14-minute mark benchmark is like a really good time. If you're ahead of 14 minutes, you're looking good. If you're behind, you're behind. Obviously, the start of this fight isn't too impactful. The fight doesn't really start picking up until I would say like the wins, which is at 75%. So right now we're just like sending as much damage as possible. Our single target damage right now is actually looking really crazy. Being at like 100k for the rogue and then 86k for the feral, and even arms being at 80k is really good. Arms notoriously has like really low single target if you can't pull trash on a boss, and unfortunately this is a boss that you can't pull trash on top of. I don't know how I'm pumping 67k, genuinely. I used my cooldowns about a minute ago, but I am sustaining very high single target for this encounter. But that's kind of the benefit of playing the Fizz comp. I gain 5% attack power. I'm also gaining 3% versatility, and I'm getting a little bit more mastery and auto attack damage from our shaman. So on this first set, we have it coordinated where I'm doing 2 orbs and Chicken's doing 2 orbs. You can dunk a ball into the fire goal early, and by doing that, you can then only dunk 2 in the next phase because one's already dunked technically. Also, a little bug that happens on this fight, that white orb that you see to my right, when they spawn, this gives you a haste buff, and the haste buff is contingent on the orb spawning, and it has its duration is tied to like the orbs existing. Or not existing, but like if you wait 5 seconds to pick it up, you're gonna have 5 seconds off your debuff basically because it lasts for 20 seconds. But it's bugged, so if it lands, it gives you the buff, but it doesn't pick up the orb. So what you can do is you can actually stack. So what I did there with Carrot is Carrot and I just stacked on that orb. We picked it up at the same exact time, and none of us ate it. So we didn't have to like run out. We didn't have like melee downtime. So it's a slight optimization you can make as a melee cleave. Obviously, range is a little bit easier to like just spread out, pre-spread out, and just pick up orbs. I'm slightly repositioning Croth to a better location so I can pick up orbs easier. An orb is pretty much going to spawn right on top of me, so I'm going to be able to dunk it almost immediately. And then our Resto Shaman is on the other side, also pre-positioned for the orbs that's about to spawn. So orbs are going to come out now, and we're going to pick them up and then pretty much dunk immediately. And this is going to allow us to just jump into this burn phase with Lust. Unfortunately, we sent Berserk a little early. He has 5 more seconds left of it. I think he should have maybe held just a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. We're going to kill this boss just fine. Now, we're very lucky. Our Outlaw Rogue was actually rolling pretty well here. Actually, throughout the most of the run, he constantly was saying like, yo, I have jackpot. Oh my God, I have jackpot again. And obviously, Outlaw Rogue, overall, their damage should be relatively equal. Like, it shouldn't be a crazy skew, but just having jackpots at the right time can make or break a run, which Outlaw can be kind of frustrating to run with because of that reason. So yeah, the back half of this fight, obviously super dangerous, super deadly. Having cooldown sent a little bit early, like not having access to Avatar or Berserk, I think during that burn probably hurt us just a little bit, but we end up actually being pretty good on time here. So if you're looking at the timers, we have about 20 seconds to be on pace here. Now, I think we're going to end up being a little bit behind on this boss, but we're going to make up time later in the dungeon just from like just purely just by being faster. I also think the 20 it's comparing it to had like 6 deaths or something like crazy. So that's why our Algethar looked pretty slow, but this dungeon can be punishing. There's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot of one shots that can happen. Just a big learning curve. It's actually funny to look back at this dungeon now and look at how we started the season and just so many things that like I struggled with personally, which I'll point out a little bit later. But like doing the Veximus area, man, I used to get shit on in that area. I had a really hard time figuring out like how to use cooldowns, but now I feel like I have it down. It's very cool. It's very fun. All right. Anyways, ended that boss actually almost at like 70k DPS, which is pretty crazy. We're skipping down here, and we're going to be skipping past this Ravager. Very easy to do. You just walk along the edge here. And then I'm going to be grabbing a bunch of foragers with this Ravager. And so what I'm doing is I'm grabbing this Ravager, I'm waiting just a few seconds, and then I'm going to roll away. And by rolling away, I'm going to then get this guy to leap to me. And my goal is to always have him leaping on me so our DPS don't get it. Now, I don't think we play it perfectly. I think there's a time or two where it goes on someone else, but that is A-okay. Ox Statue gets committed. It's going to taunt some of these guys over and stagger them in. And then, of course, like I accidentally moved in here. So our warrior, luckily, was able to Shadow Meld that leap. Shadow Meld still is really good for this place. If you're someone who plays Night Elf, it's so good. Like, you can definitely bait the Ravagers when you have it up and then just meld it off and then no one takes damage. It's, like, actually free. So here comes the next leap. I'm making sure I'm keeping max melee distance. It's going to knock me back. And then after this breath, I'm going to then chain into the next pull. Now, I need to be a little careful because I don't have any cooldowns here. But luckily, we're going to actually kill it before it leaps at me, which is so good. I actually ringed there thinking that it was going to leap, and I wanted to give myself a little bit of distance. But because it ended up dying, we're just now going to continue walking with it. So this is actually going to work out in our favor. And then we're going to make sure that we're kicking these surge casts. Now, this is not a super efficient pull. I can probably pull this area a little bit more aggressively in the future. I want to get these foragers in earlier, and then I want to be able to target these mana fiends, and then when the mana fiends die, just go into the next pull instead of waiting for the battle axes to die as well. Because battle axes are scary, but like if they're at 10% health or 20% health, just like get them into the next pull and just like kite them a little bit, and then they'll eventually die. I think is probably the play that I need to make here. So I am sitting on Dreadscale. I think I'm going to end up committing it here in a second, but I'm trying to save Dreadscale for the next pull because I need a defensive starting because I don't have Ox and I don't have Fort for another minute. Fort will come up way faster than a minute, but just I don't have any CDs right now. So again, I'm kind of like dilly-dallying. I just like was waiting for those axes to die first. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be actually pulling 2 of the 3 packs together. So like without Lust, it's really hard to pull all 3. Luckily, we're also playing with Resto Shaman, who has access to Tremor Totem. So these first monotonous lectures just immediately get canceled because of Tremor Totem. Now, obviously, the warrior, like I said before, was not in Discord. Maybe I said that. Maybe I didn't. But he's a pug. Don't know him. He's in Discord, or not in Discord. So he was just like sending shit he was gaming. This guy actually ended up being like really good. We added him, and I'm hoping to play with him again in the future. But basically, I'm waiting until the mana fiends die, and then I'm going to be chaining. I do also I prefer when battle axes are a little bit lower, but here we go. I'm about to chain. I get a keg, and then I breath, and then I blackouts, making sure that I hit everything, and then I have plenty of threat, you know, accumulated. There we go. Just like blanking out on words. I need to stop recording these at like 1 in the morning, dude. I'm so tired. I like keep yawning. Anyways, Ravager comes in. I roll out right before the leap just so I can bait it on myself. I then shift around to the other side. We get a Breath of Fire, blackout, easy peasy. So I don't play with timers. I'm doing a lot of this by memory. When the Ravager, after he does his breath, it's about 10 seconds, give or take. It's like maybe 8, maybe 9. But basically, I just count in my head. After the breath ends, right now I'm starting to count. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then like on 7 and then 8 I roll out. There's 8, 9, and then like probably 10 seconds. So 10 seconds after the breath is generally when they leap. So you can use that if you're insane like me and you start counting. You can use that to predict the leaps, which means you can always bait it on yourself by rolling out. So even Javier, "Hey, what shot? That roll was so clean. How did you know when the dragons?" It's literally me like in the background of my gameplay, just like counting to myself in my head. I do this for a lot of different mechanics. Like a lot of mechanics, I kind of memorize the frequency of the spell happening, or any kind of indicator. So for these Ravagers, for example, it's 10 seconds. So I know like after the breath, count to like 8, roll out, and then the Ravager will go on you. It's the same thing with like the bleed in the first pull. Okay, take 3 stacks, wait 2 seconds, roll out, kite for 3, then you can re-engage. It's psychotic behavior. I don't really have another solution outside of the fact that I'm just like clinically insane, and this is just how I play the game. So just a little note, yeah. All right, Veximus. Veximus is a pretty chill fight. When you're playing with a full melee comp like this, especially when you're playing with a Resto Shaman, it's really important that everyone just stays in melee. You're going to always see the mana bombs getting dropped basically on the boss, and that's okay. I think a lot of people want DPS to like run it out to keep the whole room clear, but you don't need the room to be clear. So what we end up doing here is we actually just like make like a junk pile in like the middle of the room. And what I do is I just drag the boss around the edge of the room, and melee just stay on the hitbox and drop it towards the middle. It's a pretty simple, very like archaic system for this boss, but it just works. It works for melee. In range comps, you can definitely play out more, but the issue with that is then you don't have the benefit of stacked healing. So the benefit of our composition, obviously, is because we're all melee. We're all relatively tanky outside of the rogue. Like we just all sit in the healing rain, and our healer has like no issue keeping us like healthy. So here comes some mana bombs. I should probably help soak these orbs coming in, but I'm going to just move the boss away instead. And then for this Arcane Fissure, it's really important that you try to stack with another player. I unfortunately did not stack there, so this is going to get a little hectic. I think I was actually answering someone in chat at this point in the key. But basically, if you all get knocked back in the same direction and walk together, it's a lot easier to have melee uptime. I think I'll probably show it on the next one. I think we do it properly. But it's a good kind of practice to get into when the Arcane Fissure is about to come out, stack with someone else, move together as a group, and then it's so much safer. And obviously melee uptime is really, really important. So unfortunately, this is not a super great boss for our warrior. You can see that he's doing like pretty much just tank damage. Or maybe I'm doing arms warrior damage, but Link gets committed. Arcane Fissure comes out. I stack with our group. We're going to start like kind of walking together across the hitbox, making sure that we have plenty of melee uptime. So that was pretty okay. I do like to be a little bit tighter. I like all 4 melee to be stacked if possible, but it's not the end of the world. As long as we can keep hitting boss, we're pretty good. So yeah, this boss is just a rinse and repeat. I don't recommend soaking at the same time the frontals come out. Do just be super cautious of that. So here comes this frontal. I'm not going to soak immediately. I'm going to like, well, I guess I soak right beforehand. The frontal's going to get me low, and then after the fact, I can start soaking again. So here we go. I'm going to run over. Even at 5 stacks, not super crazy. Again, Arcane Fissure is going to come out here in just a second, and I'm going to attempt to stack with my group here. You can see we're all now stacked, and then we're going to just like walk as a team. So this is a very good example of what that should look like if you're playing in a melee stack. I'm going to let my stacks drop here, then I'm going to soak. And yeah, that's it. Like, I mean, it's pretty simple. Don't soak at the same exact time as the frontal, either soak just before or just after. Make sure you're using Celestial Infusion for every single one. And then if you don't have that, just pop a defensive, pop Nizao, pop Fortifying Brew. Either of them is just good. I could have let my stack drop there. I ended up not doing that, and then we're just going to pull him to the edge of the arena. We're trying not to soak just so no one dies. Boss doesn't reset till you pull him outside or down the stairs, basically. So we actually have a little bit of safety net here. Arcane Fissure comes out at the very end, knocks us back, but then we are ready to go. All right, so we are 35 seconds behind on Veximus, but we're going to gain a little bit of speed here because again, our comparison timer is counting like a run that had like 6 deaths in it on Doragosa, or towards the end of the dungeon. So we're going to just lock in here. We all have assigned kicks. I'm green, someone's orange, and then someone's unmarked. Me and Charon actually both use green as our marker. So if he marks it with green and then I mark another one with green, obviously whoever marks second takes priority because it's the second mark that went out. And so he's just watching the unmarked ad. All we're doing is kicking surge, using small defensives whenever we're targeting by mana void, and we are just walking. So this is how we're trying to save time. These micro movements in keys end up actually sometimes being the reason between not timing a key and timing a key. Like the fact that we're going to just be 30 to 40 yards closer to the next area means that if it came down to literally the wire, the seconds, uh, this could be the make or break between timing the key or not, just being a little bit closer to your next location. Random side note, thank you for all the follows over on stream. I don't stream super often. I normally stream like I try to stream like Fridays and Saturdays. So if you're looking to kind of watch me do some of these keys live, come check it out. Anyways, I mark Skull to make sure that we are kicking that mob, and then I'm pulling it into the Echo Knight. These back two pulls are going to be very chill. Basically, our idea is kill Invoker, and then kill the other Invoker, and then finally kill the Echo Knight, and then we're going to be pulling the last two Echo Knights into boss. Pretty, I shouldn't say pretty chill, it's actually very deadly, but I'll talk about how to do that strategy here in just a second. So the reason why we're focusing the Invokers is just because the Arcane Smash will never actually one-shot us, but the Arcane Bolts going off at the same time, maybe with an Arcane Smash, is pretty much just, it seals your fate. You're just dead. And so by removing the Invoker, it just makes the pull much, much, much less scary. And so now that we only have one Invoker left, it's a pretty simple kick rotation, nothing crazy. And then we're going to be just doing the Echo Knight. And so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to check where the patrol is, and we are going to start backing up to make sure we are ready to go. And what I'm going to do here is, and what I commented to my group, I was like, hey guys, like I want to go. Like, are we good to go here? Should I wait? Like, should we pull 3 Echo Knights? Do we just have the line of sight? And they were like, yeah, just go. So what we do is we wait for that swirl. We get a distract on the patrol. I'm going to then pull these Echo Knights on the smash so they're like super, super desynced. And then I'm going to start walking these guys inside. Now, the other Echo Knight luckily should die here soon. And then we're going to we're baiting the whirlwinds, and now we're getting in position or trying to line of sight. So now we're going to line here. Carrot and I lined. Everyone else didn't. That's fine. As long as the healer can top you before this next smash, you're safe. So now what we're doing is we're going to be getting ready to pull boss. And the way you have to set this up is you need to have the arcane smashes go off pretty much right before you pull. But you don't want to pull immediately because the boss does an initial burst damage when you do engage the boss. So here comes the smashes. Smash 1. I'm then going to try to pull them off to the side here. Now that we baited the whirlwinds, I'm going to be heading to boss. Grabbing the boss. Here comes that unleash energy. And now what we're going to be doing is we're just moving back to this pillar. So the statue allows people to line of sight. And we're going to mark one with skull. So here comes one whirlwind. Here comes a second. I'm now going to actually shift over to the other one. And now my group can line of sight here if needed. So here comes the arcane smash. Everyone's topped. We commit link. And now we should be healthy. So when you pull Echo Knights on a boss, it's just really explosive, especially if you don't pull it at the right time. So we did a pretty good job here making sure that the Echo Knights died. They were low enough. We were lining Arcane Smash if needed to. We committed the proper cooldowns. We committed big defensives, Link, and now the rest of this fight is going to be very, very tame. The only thing that we can mess up on is just not dropping orbs properly. Now, unfortunately, someone dropped an orb right under boss in the direction we're trying to move. In hindsight, I probably should have gone the other way around the room, but this is kind of a comfort choice for us. We've always done the strategy of this boss fight like this season, and so this feels more natural than going the other way. And so unfortunately, we did end up in this position about 30 seconds faster than we should have just because of that arcane orb drop earlier. So I have to kind of pull pretty far here. But the middle orbs, the middle things that she spawns like basically on pull, disappear around the minute 30. I think it's technically like at a minute 28 or something like really dumb. But they should be disappearing here any second. As soon as this power vacuum comes out, I think those middle ones basically disappear. Maybe it's actually a little longer than a minute 28. And they should be gone now. They disappear on that third power vacuum. Now what I'm doing here is I'm really trying to optimize my damage uptime. So I'm going to be rolling out last second. And that's just so I can get 1 or 2 extra globals in, or so I have one less global of downtime. Now, these are the small decisions that will make or break a key at the end of the day. Not the end of the day, but these types of decisions can be the difference between timing a key at this level and not. So making sure that we're trying to always have uptime, making sure that we are always like positioning the orbs properly, and making sure that we're staying in until the last possible second. So here I'm going like blackout kick. I probably could have stayed in for 1 extra global there, but you know, play it safe. So we're 2 minutes into this fight, and we have 2.5 minutes left. And the boss at 50%, and we had less on pulls. So it's going to be looking really tight here. But we're going to end up, I think, actually having some pretty good rolls. And Feral Druid just sent his CDs, and then we should have one more use of the Feral Druid CDs as well. So we're actually like in a really good position. All we're doing is trying to play clean here. I have my Ox. I should be using it any second now. I do send it, so which means I'm going to have an extra 6 seconds at the very end of the dungeon if I absolutely need it. We are pulling far. Echo of Doradosa is now positioned against this pillar. And the reason we're going far here is because we basically want these orbs to expire. And so you can see that the orbs that are coming in from the far end of the room expire before they even hit us. So no one has to think about dodging orbs. Literally no one. All we have to think about is hit the boss and make sure we're not dropping rifts in the direction that we're going. So if we're moving clockwise like we are now, we want to drop them behind the boss counterclockwise. 26%, 1 minute and 22 seconds remaining. We basically are getting to the point where we need to only average like 1% every like 3 seconds, which is really good. If like that's an easy check. When you get to the like a percent every 2 seconds, you're like, ooh, maybe not. So we are now sub 20%, 15% health, 1 minute remaining. We need to do 4%, or sorry, 1% every 4 seconds, which is pretty easy to do. All we have to do is kind of lock it up. Rogue, I think, rolled jackpot as well, so he's just like blasting. And we're feeling really good about this run. So now it's just play clean. If we can live for 10 more seconds, after 10 seconds, death penalties no longer count towards our timer. So again, that's why Link gets committed there. It keeps us alive till that 30-second point. And now if someone dies, it's okay. I think we still time even if someone dies here. Rolling out last second, jumping back in, getting a couple hits in, and then committing touch of death to finish off the run with 18 seconds left. What an incredible run by me. No, I'm kidding. This is a really fun run. I think we blasted. We, again, Pug Warrior. Carrod's still kind of learning Druid, or I shouldn't say learning, but like he hasn't played a bunch this season. He's obviously been playing Warrior for those who've been watching my keys. So he's still getting kind of used to the cadence and the cooldown, and obviously like having an earlier death. But man, this was such a great run. I hope this information helps. Like I hope this run just like was fun to listen to and watch. So anyways, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.